Everyone, in the big story this morning, really the talk across the country, the aftermath of that near fight between Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin and the president of the Teamsters Labor Union, Sean O'Brien.
It happened in the middle of a Senate hearing yesterday, and this morning, joining us live from Washington, D.C. to talk all about it is Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. Senator, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you giving us time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You've had about 24 hours now to process everything that happened yesterday. Would you have done anything differently?
No, you remember this guy had been tweeting at me for, I don't know, almost 6 months. And he was the one that called me out. I didn't call him out. I read his tweet. So if you go and you listen to the whole hearing, you'll see that he's the one that called me a clown, called me fake, and then said that you know where to find me anytime, anywhere, cowboy. All I did is I said, this is anytime, this is anywhere, and called him out on it. I'm not a keyboard warrior like he is. I'm a guy from Oklahoma first. You don't do that in Oklahoma. You don't just simply run your mouth and call somebody out and don't think that somebody's going to answer that call. And that's what I did here. And of course, as a bully that he is, he just set his butt down and didn't do anything about it. And I hopefully it taught him a lesson as much as anybody.
Senator, do you understand why people across the country are talking about this? They're being critical of you, saying that this is unbecoming of a senator. I know you said like any place, any time, but was this hearing with health, labor, and education the place and time to have all this heated exchange?
Oh, no. If you go back and you read the whole exchange, too, I'd offered him a charity fight after he said anytime, anywhere, cowboy, September 30th, and we could do it for charity. He went totally quiet at that point and then continued to say more things afterwards. This is the first time I got to see him since then. And people can say what they want to as far as it being critical. It depends on what news outlets you watch out. And people say that it's not incumbent of a senator to act this way. Well, what is? Remember that Andrew Jackson, as president, had 9 duels. He also knocked a guy out at the White House for being critical to him in front of his family. You used to have duels in Senate. You used to have canings in Senate. There was a consequence for running your mouth like the way he did. And as I go back and say it again, I'm from Oklahoma. You guys are from Oklahoma. You don't behave that way. You don't act that way. And if I didn't call him out, what would people think of me too? Because you can't just simply say that kind of stuff. And it's not personal to me. I used to get paid to fight. But at the same time, I'm not going to let a thug and a bully sit there and think he can get away with this. Remember, this is the same guy that in 2022 said he wanted to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. This is the same guy that was kicked off negotiations by then President Hoffa of the Teamster Union for his behavior in negotiations. This is the same guy that was suspended by his own Teamsters for harassing and threatening his own members. So this is a guy that has a history of this. All I did was call him out on it.
But, sir, all of that was verbal, and you were the one in front of national cameras that wanted to make it physical in the middle of a Senate hearing. Are you standing by that?
What is the difference between being verbal and responding to those actions? You're responsible for the words that you say.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean if you said it on a keyboard or you say it verbally. You're responsible for it. And I teach my kids the same thing. I got 6 kids, and I teach them to be responsible for their actions. He needed to be responsible for his actions. Every now and then, you might need your butt kicked for behaving that way. And that's the way he behaved, and he deserved to get what he got.
Can I just ask you, like, what if Bernie Sanders wouldn't have intervened? What if you and him both would have stood up and there would have been this duel between the two of you? Like, what was the desired outcome of that?
We would have solved our differences like we used to when we were kids. At one time, kids were able to do that, and I think the world was a lot less violent because you're able to get it out of your system. As I said, I fought a lot of guys in my past, and I'm friends with all of those guys too. Afterwards, shake hands, dust yourself off, and go have a cup of coffee. And it's not personal. You just had a disagreement with somebody. It's not that as big as a deal as some people are today. Today, it's all about political correctness. It's all about people saying that we shouldn't resort to violence, and I agree, you shouldn't. But at the same time, you need to be responsible for what you said. You need to be held accountable. And the guy at the end of the day, he goes, well, I didn't mean it that way. I meant that we should have a cup of coffee. Sit down and have a cup of coffee. Fine. I told him, then let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. But that's not the way that it reads. And if you read the tweet as a whole, which I hope you guys do, then they will see exactly what he said and why I was responding the way that I did.
I was just curious, too. Did your wife watch this interchange? Like, what did she say when you first talked to her after all this happened?
Her words was, really, Mark Wayne? That's what she said.
Senator, you're going to come across a lot of folks that disagree with you as an elected official. Is fighting the answer every time?
No, it's not, and it's not like I do that every time. I mean, you go back and you read everything that's on my social media, you realize that people say stuff all the time to me. This is different. The guy was saying something that he had an opportunity to say in front of my face, and I was given that opportunity to either apologize or let's solve the issue. And he said, let's do it right here. That's what he said. He said, let's do it right here. I was like, okay, you mean that? Let's do it. We're two consenting adults. And I even said that. We're two consenting adults. And if you want to solve it, then let's solve it right now. And that's where it went. And if Bernie wouldn't interchange, maybe, I mean, hopefully we would have just settled it and went on.
But you were the first one to say, stand your butt up. I mean, you did kind of challenge him there, right?
But he was the first one that said anytime, anywhere. I was just making sure that he was confident behind his words, and he sure wasn't that confident, because when I stood up, his face looked pretty fearful.
What's the feedback that you've gotten this morning, Senator?
Oh, the guys that know me, that have known me my whole life, they like, that doesn't surprise me at all. Good job. Thank you for standing up for us. Some of these guys need to be called out on it. These keyboard warriors need to be responsible for their words. And then you got other guys going, well, we understand it, but maybe you could have handled it a little bit different. And, you know, so people have an opinion on it. And you look back on this stuff, there's always lessons that can be learned. But I will tell you, I gave him an opportunity to back down this summer. I gave him an opportunity to even, let's do this for a charity event, like the Smoking Guns do in Oklahoma for our first responders. I gave him an opportunity to do that. He continued to tweet at me for the next several months. This is the first time that I had an opportunity to actually see him face to face and see if he's really as tough as that he is behind a keyboard.
It seems like there's kind of been a culture of things ratcheting up, just of people not being able to get along. There were possibly like 3 incidents yesterday that kind of made the headlines about just some wrangling going on and just some, you know, just actions that really aren't becoming for really anyone. You know, I think that might be what is fearful for American people about just hearing things like that.
But I go back to this, what is becoming of America? America, we are somewhat tough individuals that believe that you're responsible for yourself. There's bloodstains in the Capitol right now on the steps from a dueling match between a reporter and a congressman. As I said, there's been a history of people settling their differences. And so just because it's news 24/7 and social media that people want to say everything they say, we're still guys at the end of the day. We're still humans. And as long as we've been around, there's been fighting. That's why pay-per-view is so popular right now between boxing and UFC. People like to see that. I'm not saying I did it for that purpose, but there is some type of personal pride that comes along with it. There was zero chance I was going to let this guy say that and not call him out on it. That's just not how I was raised. That's not how I raised my kids. And it's not who I am, and it's not who Oklahoma is either. You just don't behave that way. It's the same thing as I said before. In Oklahoma, you don't flip somebody off unless you want your finger broken. And you don't behave that way unless you're going to be called out on it. Now, they may act that way in New Jersey, but that's not who we are in Oklahoma. We also respect people, and I can respect him and respect our differences. And it's, as I said, it's not personal. It's just the fact that he said it, and I was like, okay, then let's do it.
You think you guys will sit down and have a cup of coffee together?
Oh, I don't know. If he wants to, he can. I don't have a problem with it at all. As I said, it's not personal to me at all. I'm not angry about it. It ought to be, quite frank, if we would have settled our differences right there, it'd probably been a great day for me. I would have enjoyed it and had a laugh a little bit about it like we did on the schoolyards.
Senator, thank you so much for talking with us this morning and answering our questions.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Hey,